Alright guys, this is Big Spenda 73. I will be recording a $25 Pot-Limit Omaha video today. I'm going to keep the Camtasia up on the top right because I'm having a little bit of trouble with my microphone. I've played just no hands on the bottom right screen and a couple hands on the top left screen, and I got lucky. I flopped bottom two against aces, which turned into a scary board, but I actually value bet the river, and he folded. He may have folded a better hand. The first hand I got on this other table was 3-6-7-4 here. Nothing I can do here, not at all. I'm just going to have the check fold button on. During this video, we're going to talk about a few things. First thing is obviously pre-flop selection. I have a hand right here where I'm going to be out of position the rest of the way. It's not a hand I really want to raise and have to play under the gun each way. So I'm just going to complete. We're going to see a flop, and that's a pretty horrendous flop. I just recorded a video earlier, but it was too long, and I decided not to. I turn it straight. I decided not to do anything with it for the fact. I'll open on the button with this other hand, though. I'm just going to check call this river on this other hand. For the fact that it was too long. Hour too long. I probably have the best hand here. I pick up just the limper money over here. I raise, I take down the pot. I'm playing 6 max. It's a little different. I really don't like this hand on the button. Ace-Jack suited. It looks like a great suited ace, but it's really not that great. You'll see I play pretty tight pre-flop even for 6 max. I don't raise too much unless it's to gain position or it's to bloat a pot with a really good drawing type hand, like a 9-10 Jack Queen kind of hand. They can flop a 20, draw straight draw. As far as raising aces go, I typically don't unless they're both suited or I have a second pair with them. You'll see me raise a lot of double pairs. I'm going to go ahead and call here. I have kind of what you call a dangling 7. The first 3 cards are big cards, and then I kind of have the 7 of diamonds there. This table looks very tight I'm on, so we'll see. We might have to exploit them pre-flop a little bit. I really can't do any exploitation on this flop. I have to fold to this bet. I do have a backdoor flush draw, but that is all. On the other table, it's an easy fold under the gun with a pretty poor hand. Basically, what I'm looking for are connecting cards, suited aces, pocket pairs, double pairs. This guy, I'm going to go ahead and raise. This guy's complete. He's got to play out of position now. I have aces, and he just gives it up. So it looks like this table is pretty weak tight. I have position on the only other stack that's anywhere near a full buy-in. Therefore, I'll probably try to use position against him a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and check in the big blind with just a mediocre hand here. And I flop bottom pair, which will not keep me around for long at all. I won't even complete with the Queen Jack Deuce 4 in the small blind. If this checks through again, I can spike a 3 for I make 2 pair, but when he donks out like that quick, not really donking out, leads out, my 10s and 4s really shrink. There's no way they're good here. So that's a pretty simple fold. In Hold'em, it'd be a pretty tough fold, getting 2-1 there, but in Omaha, it's much easier. We'll talk a little bit about reading the board today. It's a little bit different. You can't really make a 4 flush. In Omaha, you have to use 2 cards in your hand out of the 4, and you only can use 3 on the board at the most. So you can't have 1 diamond in your hand and 4 diamonds on the board. That's not a flush. You can't make a full house on the board. If 3 of the same card are on the board, you can't make a full house by pairing another card on the board. You have to have a pair in your hand. So there's a bunch of things. There's a bunch of things that are different. The reason Omaha's slightly profitable right now, even for players with just good pre-flop skills and slight know-how of the game, is that a lot of players are still playing it like Texas Hold'em. They have 2 out of their 4 cards are okay. They play. They don't think about redraws. They don't think about. They see the nuts and they think it's the nuts. I'll kind of tell you about the hand I made in the other video that you won't see. Is I had King and 2 little cards on the button, and I limped behind 3 other limpers. We saw a flop of King 8-9 with 2 clubs. The 8 and the 9 were clubs. I had a King of clubs in my hand. Let's see, this is a pretty poor flop. I'll check this one. we ended up, all three guys ended up getting in the flop. I had top set, which was the nuts at the time. Another guy had a low straight draw. He had a low straight draw plus a flush draw. And the other guy had a high wrap. He had 4 in a row. He had 10-jack. He had, on the 8-9 board, or it was a 7-8 board, or 6-7 board, excuse me. I think he had 8-9, 10-jack. Ends up the fact that one of the players folded. I'm going to fold 3 aces here. The fact that one of the players folded a underset, which he said in the chat, means I was actually the underdog to win that hand with top set and the nuts at the time. That just goes to show you the Omaha's a little bit different of a game than Hold'em. Top set would never, ever be behind. A set would never be behind a non-set after the flop at Hold'em. I flop an open-ender here with a jack, with the 2 jacks. I'm going to call. It's a rainbow board, so I can call here. I really can't call anything more, though. Looks like he has 2 pair to me. It might have been a flop. Might have been a chance to raise the flop, but, you know, it's not a bad fold there. I'm getting 2-1 pretty much, but I really don't like my hand at all. I'm going to go ahead and limp early. I'm going to see if we can't turn this into a limping kind of table. It doesn't look like it, either one. I'm going to go ahead and call both and see if we can't play for stacks. I really don't flop anything. I flop a pair of queens on the other one, which it really isn't anything either. He obviously has aces. I could check raise and you probably have to fold, but he's kind of short. I have a gin card against this guy, and he's really betting hard like he has something. The 3's a gin card. And if I look at it I need to be getting about 10-1 on my call to make this with a gut shot. I am, but I don't think he'll stack off the whole way. So this is going to be a fold. Pretty simple fold. If I had a flush draw, I'd probably just check call there. I'm not trying to get all the money in with just a naked flush draw anymore in this game because it's more likely that you'll be up against top 2 or a set, which means your flush draw is actually pretty weak to improve against someone that's going to actually improve to a full house about 30% of the time. I think it's like 32.5% of the time. I'll go ahead and call this flop with a weak diamond draw and a couple inside straight draws. He just bets a quarter. I turn a pretty good straight here. Let's see what he does on the turn. He might have queen 10. I'm going to call, and I'll probably donk the right. Let's see if he can't bluff something off here. He might just check behind, though. I don't think there's any value in raising. And if he has queen 10, he has queen 10, you know? And he does. So I had the diamond draw live. I had the second nuts. Unfortunately, that's rarely good enough in Omaha. I have a pretty easy fold with just top pair, no kicker on the other board. Unfortunately, having the second nuts isn't always the best, we'll say. I have to reload some chips over here. So we're about 8 minutes in, and I want to talk more about pre-flop play, but there's not much to talk about. We want to get high-suited cards. We want to get connecting cards. We want to have double pairs. The hands I tend to raise are double pairs because you have about a 25% chance of making a set. Therefore, I like to get as much money in the pot possible pre-flop. I'm not going to do it with deuces and 4s. But 6s and 7s, 5s and 6s, 8s and 9s, probably I'll do it with. Here's another easy fold on the button. No suited at all, not even a suited ace to limp behind with. So having those double pairs are big, and I don't raise ace-ace before the flop much. So I like to be able to represent ace-ace because I'll tell you the other night I raised with a double pair before the flop 10s and 6s, and the flop came 10 high, giving me a top set. And a player thought I had aces and check raised me, and he still had $20 behind, about 15 behind, and we got it all in the flop, and he had bottom 2. And he even said in the chat, thought you had aces. And I ended up having top set. He was drawing unbelievably slim. So there's reason to kind of disguise your pre-flop hands in that sense. I'll raise like 9, 10, jack, queen double suited. I'll raise king, king, queen, queen, obviously. But I'll raise maybe ace, 9, jack, 10 with that suited ace. Hands like that give me deception where I can stack somebody, but I can also bluff having 2 aces. If an ace flops, I can usually just go ahead and this is a pretty easy fold. It's a bad suited ace. I'll have a pretty easy chance of bluffing the ace on the flop, and if someone actually plays back at me, I'll know either A, they can't read hands and situations, or B, they have a monster. But basically that's it for preflop. I hope we get into a few semi-difficult situations here. You're going to see me do a couple things. I'm going to play very passively with the nut hands with no redraws. Say I flop the nut straight, I'm probably going to play it pretty passive until I see a turn card, until what we call commit. Until I commit myself to a pot, I really will not try to. Don't want to get too much money in, because getting free rolled is a very bad spot in Omaha. You really don't want to get free rolled. So say we saw flop a 10 jack queen, and I had ace king offsuit, so I flopped the nut straight, and there's 2 hearts on the board. Well, say for instance my other opponent has ace king of hearts, so he's flopped the nut straight plus the nut flush draw. Well, if we get all the money in on the flop, I'm losing 35% of the time there, which means it's a pretty bad play. So I like to see a turn card to kind of make sure what's going on in the hand, to see if I'll gain equity if a blank comes, and then I can try to get some more money in the pot. Here I have king in the big blind. This is an interesting spot. I have king with really nothing. If I call here, which I probably will, I'm playing 2 kings here for set value and set value only, but top set value, which is a big difference between maybe calling here with 8-8 and no other 2 cards. Playing for top set value is a lot bigger, and hopefully our opponent has aces and is willing to stack off. I'll check here in the big blind with a pretty strong holding. Don't flop much. I flop a backdoor straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. I don't turn anything. My flop pour here, like I said, we'll probably check folding this flop. I don't want to get too sticky on this board here. That's an easy fold even for a quarter. Hopefully he doesn't want to c-bet here. And we get to peel a free card, which my kings are really dirty now because Jack 10's a very big combination of cards to play in Omaha. Therefore, if he c-bets $1. Now in Hold'em, I would raise this in a heartbeat. Well, maybe not multi-way, but I would certainly love to raise a weak bet like this, unless I think he's flopped 3 queens, which I just don't think he has. But here, I can peel a card. I'm a little afraid of what check raise has behind me. I don't kind of like to get squeezed in on those calls. He folds a queen, so again, I might have had aces and being a little defensive. But that's okay. We turn a straight draw here. We turn a flush draw, and it's not the nut flush draw. We don't even have a backdoor kind of gin straight draw. And some of our, we're looking at not much here. I have a pair of jacks now. That's nothing to write home about. This is an easy check fold on the right. On the left, I have a very, for moving the mic, I have a very strong hand in the big blind. It looks like I lose to a pair of aces. I have a very strong hand in the big blind. I have ace, king, jack 10, and suited ace. It's an interesting hand, to say the least, for the position it's in. If I was on the button, I would be raising or possibly even 3-betting this hand. Being in the small blind and being out of position makes it very difficult in this game. With 2 shorter stacks now, I might raise and see if we can't get these guys committed. They're both fairly loose from what I've seen already, but the button does fold. So now I'm out of position. I flop a gut shot. This is not a bad flop to c-bet, though, as it's pretty dry. And I'm going to see right where I'm at, right when I bet. So I'm going to bet, not even full pot. I end up taking it down. Looks like he was ready to leave anyway. So if I had known that, I would have c-bet 100% of the time. I have a double pair here, but it's not a good one. It's not the ones I like because I make bottom set too much with the 4s, but I will limp. I definitely will limp, and I brick. But if it checks through, I have a good chance. I have a low pair and a suited ace, but if against a short stack, the implied odds aren't really there, so I'll fold that. I could probably take this hand down with a bet here, but to go through 4 guys with a flush draw on the board against these players who don't really read when the board pairs well, I think I'll just check. Now I have a pretty strong hand. It all depends on, looks like I'm folding here. I don't think he's betting with 5s or 6s. So that's it. When it goes 3 on the board, yeah, you had 2 jacks, so I would have lost. When that happens, he had to have a pair in his hand to make a full house. So if we look at Top Chef's hand, he had 2 6s. So he makes a pretty poor call, getting only 2 to 1 on his money. Against someone that obviously is not doing that with 3s or 5s or 6s, and I had 4s and 8s, so I know a couple he can't be using. But that's a good board reading experiment right there. We see 3 of a kind on the board. We know we only can make a full house by having a pair in our hand. You really have to be careful because the case 3 or whatever the card was, the case deuce is out a lot of the times. And I see too many people stack off of big pairs there against the case quads. Looks like this other table's taking quite a while to get going. I'm not really sure what's going on. Could it be they're all intimidated by me? Obviously not. We're just waiting on some guys to post the blinds. I'm not seeing many hands. Half an hour is kind of a short time to 2-table a game. But in Omaha, we do get to see about 35-40% of the flops. This is an easy fold here. I have nothing going for my hand at all, which makes it easy, especially against a short stack with 0 implied odds. This will be an easy fold in the small blind, too. No reason to even get involved with a hand like 4-4, 6-9 double suited. It's just going to flop us treble. It's never going to flop us anywhere near the nut end of a draw. It's not going to flop us. Flopping set, flopping bottom set, and a multi-way pot bottom set is just really vulnerable. It's usually up either against a big draw, top 2, which has about 4 outs to it, or it's up against the higher set, which you're drawn to an out. You're 5%. You're 10% on the turn, or whatever the stats are. Therefore, playing small pairs is just very unprofitable in Pot-Limit Omaha High. Now, 8 Pot-Limit Omaha High Low is a little better if you can have a hand like Ace Deuce 4-4 and try to flop a set plus a low draw. But we're not really talking about that. That's a different game altogether. But hopefully we start seeing some hands. We can mix it up. We can see how we can play some draws here in the next 12 or 13 minutes. At Kings on the button again, and let's hope I don't get deja vu with flopping a set of Kings on the button like last time. I limp because I really have nothing going for my hand, and I totally bricked this flop. Wolf leads out. This is not good at all. This is an easy fold. Some people will get in trouble calling here. I know I'm getting 3 to 1. I have a backdoor king high flush draw. If there was a king 8 of spades, I might call, but I still think someone has a flush draw. Basically, I'm looking at someone has a set, like 6s, 3s, and the other guy has a flush draw, maybe a 4-5 straight draw. You really have to start putting people on hands and then really watch showdowns. See, here's an easy raise. A double pair. Here's an easy fold. I got 4s and 3s. I play goods in this pot. I like checking here. I turn the flush draw. See what he does. I'm going to call here. Only outs I really have. Probably as I could be. I'm definitely folding into any bet here. I played a little passive. Maybe I should have potted the flop. Felt like I might get checked raised though on that kind of board. He bet 6 into 735. So, if I turn a good hand, I'm good. It looks like, and it would have been a hidden backdoor flush. Therefore, it would have been. It's the right play call on the turn there. My 2 aces could be good also. It looks like he had a pretty solid hand, so he's paying off a value bet, and I only need to getting 2 to 1 on the turn. I need 4 to 1 on the call. I just need to double what he's really betting out there, and that's what I need to get out of him on the river to make that call profitable. I feel like I can, especially if he has like the nut straight. He'll probably call down a value bet, even with the backdoor flush coming in, and I might even just pot it on the river there and hope 1 out of 2 or 3 times I get a call. This is an easy check out of the big blind. I flop a gut shot and the nut flush draw, but I'm not going to play this fast at all because someone is bound to flop the nuts here or near nuts. I am going to call the 2 cold here, though. It'll turn my hand dead face up. Wow, that's a great card. I have the nut straight now. I'm going to go ahead and bet full pot and get both these guys stacks in, and I'm going to be free rolling. Hopefully they don't have a set. Hopefully this guy on the left just has a straight, or maybe even 2 pair, and I'm free rolling. If not, easy fold over here with not much. Inside straight draw on a pair of kings. I don't know if donking is good there or check raising. I think pretty sure this guy has a set. Hope the board doesn't pair, 'cause I'll be mad. And I make the nuts. So that's boys and girls, what we call free rolling, and that's how you win big pots against players at this level. Is you can free roll the heck out of them. So that's a good feeling because I've actually been running sort of bad on the river lately, and that's a nice feeling to be able to hit that card there. I think I played the turn fairly well. I was sure you had a straight. I don't want a bad card coming off on the river and losing all my value, so I pot it. I force the set to make a decision. I don't allow the set to get 2 chances to call on the turn there from the initial flop aggressor's bet, and then my raise. Maybe I can commit him. I'm not sure though, but I really like my hand there. I like how I played that hand. It could be wrong. I have no doubt my post-flop play needs work. No doubt at all. No way I'm putting another dollar in the pot with the queens here. I just completed in the small blind because they were a weak set of queens. Looks like he has 3 jacks or aces and jacks. So, I got unlucky. I had pretty much a dominant hand over him. All I could flop was his ace, and he did. But I didn't lose any money. This is not a hand to play from the button at all. Looks like I'm probably up a little bit this session. I've been topping off a bit on the table on the right. We have about 9 minutes to go. And the great thing is about that free roll is just nice. 20% of the time you're going to hit that. But what you really want to do is make it. You just want to make sure you get as much money on that turn as possible, and actually, you'd rather just get it all in right there. It's just going to do you better in the long run. I get min raise from the button, which is fine. I love these guys at min raise. I do it every once in a while too, for the fact that we just build a nice little bigger pot. We get to play a bigger pot. I don't flop much here, and I'll go ahead and check fold this flop if he wants to c bet. He could have a connector hand like that and have a really good flop. He could have a queen jack 10 hand, king queen jack 10 hand. I have a gut shot straight draw and a backdoor flush draw, so that's really not worth going. If we were 200 big blinds deep and it was a player that stacked off fairly easy on obvious boards, then I would think about playing that hand. But in Omaha, you really have to be careful about what you think your implied odds are. For the fact that when the draw completes, it's very obvious. And we started a thread earlier, and I was kind of getting into the fact that I like hidden gut shots, not hitting, but hidden. Say there's an obvious flush draw on the board, but I do have the gut shot for those extra 3 outs. Those are great 3 outs to have because against observant players, I turn a straight here on a flush board, and I'm probably not going to put a dime in. And now it's going to be tough because someone will bet the straight along with me, and I'll have to fold. So it's a tough spot to be in. It looks like I'm winning the hand, though. So, I take the limper's money. That's about it. But there's no reason to put any money in that pot. In Omaha, it's too easy for someone to have a low flush there, and they get way too attached to him at this level, which is great. It's why I always bet I usually bet my nut flush draws. In position, out of position, I tend to check call, but I tend to bet them in position for the fact that I know that players will call. This is an easy fold. Players will call with a lesser flush draw. So I'm building a pot with a hand with more equity, and it's great because at this level they're passive and in their own minds everyone should play like them. They don't really bet their draw strong. Therefore, when the draw comes in, they really don't put me on the draw at a lower level. It's nice in that sense. That's why I like to bet my draws relatively strong down here. If I have, it typically would need to be 12 or more out draw. A flush draw is always better with a gin card like a gut shot. If you have an open-ended straight draw and the nut flush draw, having 15 outs is usually a flip against a 2-pair kind of hand. Against a set, it's not as much. You're about a 3-2 dog, really, against a set with a 15-outer, I believe. It all depends on what set it is and if you have a backdoor boat draw, kind of. I'm not really getting any hands here, and I only have about 5 minutes left. I'd like to get into a pretty tough spot. I really haven't. The other video, I got into some tough spots, chasing some draws with some large implied odds because I did get kind of deep on one table. This is a great hand here. This is kind of a favorite hand of mine. And I want everyone to realize this right now. The 6-8 of spades are not for a flush draw. All they're there for is what we call defensive outs against a flush draw or even backdoor outs. But having these 2 spades in my hand help against if a spade draw does flop. If a spade draw flops, I'm not thinking a spade comes, completes my hand as the best hand. I'm thinking more along the lines of I have two less spades and someone else needs to complete a higher draw. That's why it's great to have the low suited cards, but you can't view them as flush makers. That's a very important aspect. You really can't view them. You can view them as making a flush maybe in a check down pot or a passive pot, but when the play gets aggressive, having an 8-high flush just means nothing. Here's going to be a pretty loose limp, but I kind of want to get myself into a difficult spot or two. I'm going to sweeten this pot up just because I can and I want to, and they might put me on aces, and if the flop comes low and I flop a low straight, they might put me on aces and go ahead and pay me off. This is an easy check fold unless it comes runner or something really good without completing the flush. I can't even call 25 cents. It's not worth it. Like the whole world's called here. I flop. Unfortunately, I don't flop much. And I'm afraid a little bit to check. It's a dry board. I have middle pair and a gut shot and a backdoor bad flush draw. I'm going to check, and hopefully the guy behind me checks it through. If not, I probably have to check fold. He bets 170 into pretty much what was $3. So he's betting a little more than half the pot, which means I'm getting a little better than 3-1. For all you math majors like myself that can't do that correctly. 3-1. That's just not even near enough price. I wish I could have flopped a little more, a little bit bigger of a piece. I probably would have c-bet, but I could have c-bet and repped aces. But if I get raised, I'm in really bad shape, and I've wasted. I've shown passivity, and I've really wasted some money there. But it was worth a shot there. I don't mind that. I'm going to see what I'm doing for the session here. I got 65 at the table. I'm about $6 up, which is, better because I've been running pretty bad. I had that nice free roll that I hit earlier in the session. I've been running a little poor as far as just equity goes. I've been getting very aggressive and getting my money in a lot, and unfortunately, I think I haven't mastered the math part of it all yet. Because like that king-king hand having top set, I really would have thought. I even said in the video that I thought I was about a 45% favorite. That I was a bit of a dog to the field because 3 people got it all in with more than full stacks on the flop, on a king-high flop with the nuts being a set of kings. And I ended up being I ended up having 24% to win. And I was tied, and another player had half the pot with a low wrap and a low flush draw. And I just didn't know that. And I was complaining in the video, and I was wrong. I was dead wrong. Here I flopped nothing but a backdoor flush draw. I limped under the gun with a suited ace and a small pair. It's a somewhat okay hand. It's nothing special. Just flopping a set of deuces is not going to make me go crazy on a pot. Looks like we have about 2 minutes left. I'm trying to think of anything else I could really explain. But as of right now, I can't think of much. We talked about double paired hands. I like to raise those. I don't like raising aces as much. I like betting my nut flush draws hard with a gin card. I like having backdoor outs are huge in Omaha compared to Hold'em. You have so many more. Let's see what else I can kind of squeeze in here in the last few minutes. Basically, I play pretty passive preflop, but I probably play about 40% of my hands, and I rarely raise preflop. I'll raise to gain position. I'll raise to blow to pot with a big drawing hand, and I'll raise to isolate probably against a poor player who tends to pay off easily. This is just an easy check in the big blind. See if I flop 3 jacks with a flush draw. Now, this is a good tough spot. I'm going to let this run past 30 seconds to play this pot. These are tough spots. I could easily be behind. I could easily be well ahead. I'm out of position. I'm going to go ahead and check. And I'll probably just call the flop. And we're kind of going to see what goes on the rest of the way. This guy leads out, so I'm thinking he has a jack. He could easily have jack 7, which is bad news for me. That's a great card. If he has a flush, he's going broke. If he has 7-7, he's going to think I have a flush and pay me off, which is great. Hopefully he goes ahead and leads at it with set. Hopefully, we're praying right. We're not praying. He should have 7-7. I'm going to check raise this big, to about 8. He bet pretty weak, and we're going to see if he'll just push for me. If he has Jack 7, we're going to pay it off. If he has 7-7, hopefully he's going to pay me off. If he has a flush or a naked Jack, I'm not sure really what the best play is. It's a great turn card for me. He hasn't pushed yet, so I'm going to assume we have the best hand, which is nice. He's in a tough spot, and that pretty much ensures that I have the best hand. I don't like pushing the all-in button for some reason. I just like betting 9. He's kind of forced to call here. The pot's enormous, unless he had like 5-6 of clubs or something, and was trying to hit a miracle 2-outer on me. He's getting 3-1, and his money would be in the pot with Jack 7. So I'm pretty sure he has 7-7 right now, or like Ace Jack, maybe even a flush. He had King Queen Jack 6, so he had outs on me for sure. But all in all, I had the best hand there. I got lucky in the turn. I'm going to tell him, I got lucky. But that's basically it. That was a good tough spot. I like to check call on the flop because raising doesn't do me much. Raising really doesn't do much for me there on the flop. I don't think I stack a naked Jack there. Maybe I get more money in later down the road, and he can't fold. I really thought he was stuck there with just a Jack or 2 7s there on the river. But turns out he had a pretty solid hand. His turn call is marginal, but it's the right call, I think, because, well, he's getting quite a price to try to boat up on the river, especially if he puts me on a flush. I just don't. He's saying he thought I had a flush here, and there's really no way I should ever have a flush on a paired board there, and check raise it on the turn. So, that kind of stinks in that sense, but it was a good hand. I think I played it all right. The check raise on the turn is really what I was going for because the turn card was perfect. Either completing a flush for him or him still having 3 Jacks. That's basically going to do it for this Omaha video. I actually ran okay. I wish I could do a little longer than 32 minutes, but that's all time is going to allow. Once again, this is Big Spenda 73 from FTR, and thank you for watching.